it after this. All right, at this time, I'd love to get my panelists together. Guys, you can pop up onto video now. We got Reese, we got Justin, David Rounds, Matt Lee. What a great looking group. Here we are. Dang it. I hate it when I'm the ugliest guy in the room.
Every time we see you, Ken.
Oh, he's here all week, folks. Try the video.
You just need to get that haircut, and then you'll be good.
Yeah, I definitely need the haircut. There's no question. My Flowbee broke. All right, guys. So for the MSPs in the room, you're in for a treat. This is our panel time. This is where your peers get to discuss certain subjects. We talk about a few things, but we really would love the interaction from you guys. So pop your questions in. I will make sure these guys get them. I promise you they will battle in a nice way over answering your questions. We have some people who are more than willing to help out. You know, Matt's the first guy to smile when I say that. But seriously, guys, this is a great time for you guys to get questions answered. So I'm going to start off. We're going to go in the order that you guys are. Can you guys see the slide? We're going to go in the order of the slide. So Reese will go first, Justin, David, Matt, Lee. We're going to start off with an introduction, a weird or interesting fact, and then from there I'll start throwing some questions out to you folks. So let's start off with your company, who you are, what you do, and then a weird or interesting fact. Go, Reese. Oh, Reese has got to turn your mic on, Reese. He's the pro out of the group too. Justin's eating this up.
This is awesome.
All right, I'll skip to Justin until you get and just chime in. Justin.
Yeah.
Got it? He looked like he had it.
Nope.
And guys, I did not think it was going to be the pro who had a problem. So we'll go to Justin. Justin, Justin, go. He still looks baffled. Go ahead, Justin.
Cool. All right. So my name is Justin Dews. I'm the CIO at TechVera. We're a managed services firm here north of Dallas, up here in Denton. Have been doing managed services since 2015 or so, and feel like we're doing a pretty good job at it. We did just over about 2.3 last year in revenue, so hopefully we can maintain that through this year. But anyway, interesting or weird fact about me is, whether you believe it or not, we feel like when I was younger, we lived in a house that was haunted.
Nice.
All right.
Nice. All right, Reese is back.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Reese, I
don't know what was happening there. My cable was loose or something. So sorry about that, everyone. Hi, I'm Reese Orman. I'm the CEO of TechVera. Like Justin said, we're an MSP based here in North Texas. Got a few verticals that we focus in. We do a lot with legal professionals, a lot of construction and manufacturing here in Texas, and we're starting to dabble a little bit in oil and gas before all this stuff went down, right? So this has been a really interesting time to own a business. Had a long history in kind of break-fix residential computer repair. We were actually Geek on Wheels up until about 4 years ago. That was the name of the company. And as we started doing managed, I see you laughing at that, Matt, by the way.
Oh, I'm enjoying it. I like it.
As we started our managed service program and started doing more with commercial clients, the name just wasn't a fit. So we rebranded as TechVera. I'm really heavy into sales and marketing, and despite what you saw with the audio gap there, try to get a lot of content out there in the channel. So hopefully you've seen me at sessions and try to help out where we can. So we're big on relationships down here, and I think that's been a big edge, and something I want to talk about in the questions you have here later today, Ken, is how we've been able to leverage that.
Absolutely. And just so you know, we already have a few comments about, and I know you're going to know who this is from. Can we get Reese some tech support? He seems to be in over his head for a man who does this 3 times a week.
I'm telling you.
It was Cole Halpin. Just giving you All right, I'm sorry. Go ahead, David, you're up next.
So David Rounds, Chief Executive Officer of NetEffect, which is out of Las Vegas. We've been doing this since 2001 and a series of 2 different mergers and acquisitions to get to where we're at. Primarily focusing on small, mid-sized businesses, no specific verticals here in Las Vegas that we focus on, although we have some gaming clients and hotels and casinos and such. Interesting fact, I'm probably going to be the only scuba diving, bow hunting, computer nerd you've ever met.
I love that. And I think you left out a couple of things. That's pretty good.
I did. I had to shorten it for the group because, I had to change it up a little bit. Some of them have heard it before.
You got the band part, so that would have been.
Band geek, yes. Band geek, Las Vegas-born redneck Jewish guy. So, it just adds up.
That fit on a business card?
Yeah.
No. One was this big, and it had to fit in a wallet. So.
Nice. All right, Matt, you're up.
I'm the director of technology and security at Iconic IT. We are a multi-state MSP that was the formation of four, roughly $8 million MSPs that merged to become Iconic, and a few acquisitions later. And my role is to try to develop a overall security strategy and really kind of how we as a company take our clients through their tech transformation and digital transformations. So,
nice.
That's it. That's all I got. Oh,
how about your weird fact there, buddy?
Yeah. So, it's a toss up of do I go with the eyes part or do I talk about the beard? Because it's got its own thing now. But
it's got a life of its own, Matt.
Yeah, this beard started as a bet with my sales guy in Wichita. He said that my beard was looking rough, and if I kept it growing, he wouldn't invite me to any more board meetings with clients. So he has never made good on his end of the deal, but I've continued to make mine good every day. So.
How long have you been growing that, man?
About a year, last March or so.
Wow.
Take me about 10 years to do that.
Yeah, exactly. I think I'd need, I'd have to buy some extensions.
COVID's been good for it, though. I mean, it's really getting a little long.
It's shiny, very shiny. You have a nice coat. All right, guys. So let's get into our questions. And, we want the audience to really get involved here. So guys, start pumping those questions in. Our questions are going to be good. Yours will be great. We want the interaction. That's something that we are really truly missing by being in front of you and being able to walk around the room and me sitting in a chair instead of moving. If most of you know me as crazy, I like to be walking around and doing things. So the first question I have for you guys, and I know a lot of these people are in different, everybody's in a different part of their business. So don't be worried about some of the questions that you guys ask, because these guys have all been in different iterations, and so have I. But the first question is, what were some of the best and worst decisions you have made over the years? So those decisions that you were like, man, that was one of my turning points, and then, oh, I'll never do that one again. So, Matt, we'll start off with you and we'll run down.
Yeah, I would say, find some framework. We went around traction, but something to force you to focus on the business, not in the business, right? Not running the clients and dealing with all those things that we do for them. But find some format to allow you to do that that's universal across the company, that becomes a common operating language, that starts when you're 6 people and then when you're 193 still continues and scales and allows for the same iterative transfer of information throughout your operational stack. So I would say that no matter how large or small you are, start with that and then use that, because I was the ignorant guy that said, do we even want to be a process-driven company? Right, like that. Now looking back, like I should have been slapped right there. I should have had my eyes straightened automatically for me. But in reality, it's those two things: is to have some operational language that you're going to grow the business by actually fixing the problems in our business every day, right? And I think that's one of the best things that's worked for us. And all 4 of the core companies that merged were on the same operating language, which made things pretty simple from a merger perspective.
Awesome, David.
Actually, I say one of the best things was, I'm going to give a plug for Pax8, was Pax8. It started when we changed to Pax8, it started a whole wave of automation and optimization for our company. And it was a game changer for us as far as billing. We cut our administrative staff down significantly, and it simplified our invoicing. But so there's a Pax8 plug. Before that, I would say I'll go back a little farther, and it still has to do with Office 365. It was attending the Microsoft then Inspire, or then it was called the Worldwide Partner Conference. Now it's called Inspire. Back in 2006, when Steve Ballmer got up and said, we're no longer going to be selling small business servers, when we were doing like 2 or 3 of those a month. And he also announced that Exchange was going online, and it was there that we signed up for BPOS, which is now Office 365. And that really was a fork in the road about how our business was operating and starting transitioning to the SaaS model. And while we've been managed services since we opened our doors, we started bundling the products into it. And that was a fork in the road for us and changed things significantly.
Yeah, and I didn't see you lose a drop in blood pressure when you mentioned the part when they dropped small business server, because I certainly remember our business was, when we jumped in with both feet with small business server, we actually made changes to the program. We helped them with getting it off the ground and took off with it. And then when they made that announcement, I'm pretty sure there was a start of the grays in the back of my head. I was like, what? But yeah, it turned out to be one of the best things. And obviously, I'll give you kudos for surviving through BPOS to get to where we are now, because I know how painful that was.
Yeah, we were an early adopter of BPOS and on the beta team for it, because we were pretty well recognized in the Western region at the time. And yeah, I did lose some blood pressure. We were doing 2 or 3 new business servers a month at the time, which back in 2006 was a lot of new customer acquisitions and projects. And that was we had to completely change our entire model of the way we did business from that point on. And it made us adopt more into managed services, and Office 365 has been a staple ever since then.
Yeah, we'll have a separate conversation about the built-in faxing, but yeah. Hey, Justin Dews, you're up next, my friend.
Yeah, so I'll start with probably one of the worst things that we'd ever done, and that was not charging enough for the value that we provided, right? Some early on clients were fairly low priced, and we learned over the years to fix that. So one of the best things we've ever done, I feel, is standardizing on a technology stack across all clients. And anytime we pick up a new client, putting them on that specific stack. So we're not taking in 14 different file sync and share services and 17 different firewalls and switches, and everybody gets the same technology across all the clients. It just makes your life a lot easier when it comes to service delivery.
Scalable.
Yep,
Yeah.
Scaling, nice. Reese.
So I'll expand on that. And Justin has been through this transition here and came in 2013, right?
Yep.
And was rough running residential computer repair as a shop called Geek on Wheels. And so a few of the best decisions I've ever made, bringing people on my team that could share my vision and be a leadership level of drive and initiative. It was Justin who evaluated the RMM and PSA tools when we were, contemplating this evolution, and having someone spearhead that, and then literally having Arnie Bellini on stage telling me that I need to appoint a czar to our managed services, and coming out of it and saying, hey, this is your department, you own this, and then seeing that build out of a break fix operation, that was really, really cool. So, getting quality people that on the team at that level has been a huge thing. Joining a peer group, which I did 2 years ago for Evolve, that was life-changing for me, conceptually getting a better understanding of the financials behind the business. I'm one of those guys that just tries to sell my way out of everything. Yeah. And as long as there was money in the bank, I thought I was rocking, right? Yeah. And so it gave me some awareness, right? And it gave me awareness of where we were grossly overstaffed and how much money was being left on the table. And we were fortunate enough to have some good sales and marketing and some healthy managed service agreements to really drive the bottom line once we figured out what levers to push. And so joining that peer group, having leadership on here, those were great decisions. Now I can tell you about some bad ones. First one was when that break fix model was really starting to fade out. We were doing everything we could to generate revenue. And Ken, you know me, I'm a pretty scrappy guy, right? Well, obviously I'd been mining Bitcoin back then, because why not? So we decided to open up a gaming lounge, and I literally had a gaming lounge in my office here in 2015, 2016. It was right when we started our managed service agreements off. And so I'd have clients in here in a conference room trying to pitch to them, and they'd come out into a gaming lounge with kids gaming and swearing and just no fun. So when we did not hone in on the one area where we needed to focus, which was managed services for our ideal clients and knowing what they look like, I was just all over the place. We tried a residential managed service program. You know, I tried to cater to residential needs, and it was just very low margin and hard to service. It was hard to do all these different areas, right? So once we finally got to where everybody was rowing in the same direction, building this program, taking care of our clients, it simplified things, but those were some challenges. They were self-inflicted wounds, as I like to say.
Right. Yeah, that's great stuff. We have a question, so this is perfect timing right out of that first question. And the question is for the whole panel, so you guys know what to do. Chime in first, whoever has it first. I'm not going to go in any order at this point. The question is, as an MSP, we have always had in-house help desk support and felt that it's part of what clients like. Have any of you found success in outsourcing help desk without sacrificing client satisfaction?
Never tried it.
Oh, you guys haven't had in-house. What's your success? Haven't tried outhouse? You guys have everything?
Oh, yeah, so sorry. I'm sorry. We have not tried outsourcing help desk yet.
Yeah. And I did say outhouse. Don't get crazy.
This is something that we contemplate, right? And as these services, there's a commoditization that's going on there, which is why there's outsourcing, right? How far are we away from automation? So yeah. I don't know. It's something that we constantly think about here. Matt, I'm sure you guys have a bigger. Are y'all using anything?
We don't use outsourced help desk, but I was one of the Continuum's partner panels and a lot of those things, and made some good friends through there. And there's several, really successful MSPs that have made a business model on using outsourced help desk, especially if you're trying to, extend certain services where you and the partner understand what you're selling. Where you're saying, listen, I can provide a lot of bandwidth. It's going to be customized on X things, and I can provide that, right? And so, like from a tier 1 perspective, they're fantastic. As you start getting into tier 2 and harder level things, where that's going to be, mission critical, SLA driven, things like that, it gets really tough. I mean, I think there's ways to do it, and there's some, like I said, Gordon Flesh, they're a huge MSP. They're 100% remote help desk, and so it is doable. I think you're right on the nail of the customer experience, and our help desk is one of our features, right? It's kind of one of our things that we have a local help desk that you're going to know their name, you'll talk to them a bunch. And,
right.
Those are the type of things where it's all about what you can do for your business. But I know the models do work on some of the outsourced resource and some of the maybe co-managing that, where you have a help desk that takes the tier 2s and 3s, and that way you have to staff less, but you can afford a higher bandwidth on the front end. So there are models where it makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. Go ahead, David.
So we've tried it 2 or 3 times, and our experience, we did it with an InBay at one point in time. We did it with not Imagine IT. It's IT by Design at one time. And the bottom line is it's not the remote resource. For us, it wasn't the remote resource or the platform that was a problem. It was us.
Process.
Like, you have to know how to manage that remote employee, because there's 2 different models, right? So there's completely outsourced, where that person or that company is your help desk, and then there's also shared employees, where they're your employee answering your help desk for you or some other thing. So we did the shared employee piece, where that was their employee, it's our we manage the employee like it's ours, and they're part of our help desk. And it was us. It was managing that remote resource, number 1. And number 2 is, how well is your environment documented? How well is your client environments documented? How well is your processes documented so they can follow it? Because everything that you have a hard time spinning up a self or a internal employee on your help desk is amplified exponentially when they're remote. So if you don't have everything perfect and you don't have your customers documented, they can't visualize and have pictures of those customers' locations on their sites, or their site locations on some platform for documentation. It just gets horrible. And then you have to deal with the fact that they're remote. So different time zones, different cultures, different things like that, potentially, depending on what kind of ones you're doing it. So that being said, I know several MSPs in our Evolve group that use platforms like that, whether it's Continuum or IT by Design, and they're very happy with it and successful. Sometimes they say they're lucky, and sometimes they say they're doing a great job.
Yeah, I think it's a mix too, right? It's like anything, like we talk about at the beginning. There is no silver bullet here, right? It's what works for you, your customers, your region, that whole thing. All we can do is offer what worked or didn't work for us. And I agree with Chris's point in his question. Are you losing that personal touch? David, you touched on this as well. It's, I could train my people to have that culture of, you know, customer first and that caring piece. And I don't know that there's an outsourced company that brings that culture into the mix. I know there's some good ones, and we mentioned them. IT by Design has a great reputation, and Continuum has a great reputation, and they're growing and they're getting better. But I don't know personally if they've gotten to the point where they can do that extra human touch that you get when the people work in your environment and know your culture. That's the piece that I don't know, you know, from that standpoint either. And I know we got, and then someone wrote, that leads to the question of why, but I think we're answering the why. It's, you know, I like the feel of, I like keeping them in-house because I like the feel of the personal touch. When I was an MSP, my team was in-house. I knew how to take care of them. I know how to incentivize them. And it was just that relationship that was great. Cole pointed out on here, you know, his thing is, yeah, sure, I like to outsource the things that my customers don't touch, but not the things that we have them touching, which is, you know, our support.
Agreed.
And, you know, if your margins are right, if you're priced right, if your offering is there, there's no reason why you can't bring 15 to 20 points to the bottom line, you know, running this as a traditional MSP with everything in-house. You know what I'm saying? It's just a weird spot. I know guys that are doing really well with it, like you said, and I know we've all heard stories and challenges and so forth. I've seen some really interesting things for smaller MSPs, 1, 2, 3-man guys that are able to take deals and opportunities they wouldn't otherwise, right? But I think it has to go to the success of that depends on how you price your model, how you set the client expectations, and what level of documentation standardization you have in that service delivery, because it's a big challenge for us. And we've looked at this before, even though we think we're doing pretty good with documentation, you have to have everything done to the T for any kind of outsourced solution like that to work and standardize across your stack, or you're going to have some headaches with that.
Yeah, can your solution designer refresh an entire network for one of your clients with never going on site because your documentation's that's good and he knows everything? If not, you're not ready for it.
Well, good, David.
No, I'm done. I mean, it's like we went through refreshing all of our customer projects, all of our customer networks for 2008, just about. I mean, 75% of our equipment was replaced. And there were several times we're like, oh boy, you know, we were doing a great job, 9.9 surveys, you know, project profitability, agreement profitability, customer happy, all that kind of stuff. And we take a look at it and, whoop, there's an extra 5 hours of work because we didn't have this documented all the way. We were missing this. You know,
yeah,
so,
and it's funny, it kind of goes right into the next question, which is wrapped around this as well, is Morgan said that they worked for an MSP who had help desk in-house, and now they work for an MSP that has it help desk outsourced, and they've noticed the SLAs tend to be different between the two. Typically, should the SLAs be standard across the board regardless? And that's a question.
well, aren't SLAs done based on your agreement with the customer? Yeah, that's where I guess where I'm confused on it.
So we have a overarching SLA that is, you know, applies to all of our managed clients, and we're able to do that because of the stack that we have, right? But when people talk about SLAs, I think something that we get worked up over that we maybe shouldn't is this is a SLA on response, not resolution, right? And if you have clearly defined metrics, for us, if it's a mission critical network level outage, it's 60-minute SLA. So internally, we have a 50% on that. So our internal SLA, it's not client facing. This is what we hold our guys to, is 30 minutes on any kind of site outage, mission critical, right? That's response. That's, hey client, I see that this is happening. I just want you to know the team is on it. Expect X, Y, Z. We'll update you in 10 minutes. Boom. That's it. You know, and Justin, you can comment on this probably better than me.
To the person's question about should your SLAs be standard across the board, I'm not sure if he's meaning, you know, with the in-house help desk versus the outsourced help desk. And like David said, it should be based on the agreement you have with your client. Quite honestly, they should all be, the SLA should be standard across the board. For, you know, if you have a flat rate agreement, I think one of the questions that probably will come up at some point in time is, do you do an all you can eat or do you do an a la carte? And when we do an all you can eat across the board, right? So all of our SLAs are the same. And it just lends itself to not having to go oh, do I have 30 minutes or an hour to respond to this one? Do I have to go on site or, for this one? And, so yes, standardize your SLAs just like you standardize your technology. And it becomes a lot more scalable, as Matt alluded to earlier. And it just makes your life, for your help desk, for your service managers, for your dispatchers, for everyone a lot easier if you can standardize as much as possible.
But I think to the spirit of the question of, my help desk can do it in this time frame, and we have these SLAs we can meet, but this outsourced help desk does these. Well, that would be a qualifying or disqualifying conversation, right? Like that would ultimately be if I've promised my client I am going to deliver X and I'm going to respond in 60 minutes and we shoot internally for 30, as Reese and Justin's team say, right? Then if you have a help desk that says it's 2 hours, well, they're probably out of the mix, right? Or you're going to have real conversations with your clients about why that would make sense for them and your business model and their business model. But
right, and Justin, always reading the script ahead of time with the all you can eat.
Yeah,
we will
right.
be discussing that. But we do have a question that popped on that's directly related to SLA, so we'll get that out to you guys first, and then we'll jump into that conversation. How do you adjust SLAs for a primarily cloud-based stack? So I'm guessing the question is to go away from the norm of the mix and going primarily cloud-based. Do you guys make adjustments to SLAs for that?
No, my thoughts on it are your SLA should be the same no matter what technology your client's using, right? Because the impact of a problem is going to be the same whether you have an on-prem server, a SaaS application, or a hosted machine in Azure or whatnot, right? The impact of the problem is going to be the same across the board. They're not going to be able to do X, Y, or Z, whether that's print checks, bill, invoice, whatever. That impact to the business is uniform across any of those technologies. So your SLA has to match that.
And I want to reiterate what Reese said earlier was that it's a response metric, right? Ultimately, it's this is when I will let you know I've received this. This is when I'll let you know we've escalated this to X person, right? It's those type of metrics. It's not a guarantee of we're going to solve it. And even more so in the cloud space, you're often much more hand-tied, right? Because once you start committing to an entire stack on Azure or an entire stack on AWS, or you start going towards those platform services, I might be able to respond to it and know there's a problem. And I may escalate an engineer to go start a ticket with Microsoft, but that might be in the Microsoft bucket for a hot minute, right? And unfortunately, the SLAs have to be modified to at least explain those type of things, right? Potentially, or have already been written with that type of understanding that really this is a response metric, not a time to solve metric, right? And I think, so.
Some things, and I think there's something else to add on to what Reese said there that was a big deal and very important, is that after you reach the SLA and you call the client, that kind of stuff, afterwards it's setting expectations of when they can receive a call back or when they can receive an update so they're up to date. All SLAs are setting expectations up front. It's our job to exceed those expectations, right? And so if we can, and I'm not saying there isn't a contractual obligation, but it's really about setting things up to win with the customers. So it's not just, did we respond to it, assign the ticket to an engineer, but the next part of that is what Reese said, hey, we're going to get back to you in 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. We're going to contact you every hour, whatever it is. So you set that expectation, and then they don't have to sit there and worry. Because if you're providing them that worrying customer experience, then they're going to be worrying about how much they're paying your bill every month too.
So something to think about with that, guys, is when you have those mechanics operating smoothly, when you go to a client for a renewal, or you have a client that's maybe looking to at a competitor or maybe to jump ship. I've literally had conversations where a client will ask about their service delivery or their SLAs, and we'll pull up their dashboard and I'll say, yeah, your average time to response is 8 minutes. It takes my team 8 minutes to manage your, so there's some ways you can continue on that conversation. It's very meaningful, but some things that we've done from a high level in our agreements to offset SLA liability, I should say, is think about this with a really business continuity piece in mind. Every one of my clients has a backup internet connection, either one that they bought or a 4G failover that we provide, right? So a big SLA interruption might be internet service, especially if you have them on cloud services. So having alerting and a failover in place, you want to talk about value, man. When my clients wake up in the morning, they see that a ticket opened up by Otto at 2 o'clock, and they switched over to their failover, and 3 hours later when their internet came back on, it switched back over and the ticket was closed. We'll get this awesome survey review, Ken, for Otto. Well, Otto is automation in our ticketing system, and people love him. They think he works all night long. But having the failover in place and having business continuity through like a good backup appliance on-prem can really save your bacon in one of these places where you might have to roll a truck. And your clients get it now more than ever. Like that continuity piece, they will listen to.
Yeah, that's true. And it's funny, you were just answering a question that popped into the questions as part of this. If most of the client services and data is hosted, are you putting in multiple internet connections to minimize that bottleneck? I think you just answered that question. Does anybody have any additional, what are you doing for that, Matt?
I mean, I think as you start to see platform adopted in its true vision, and you're not dealing with remoting into office resources, then partial cloud things, then the COVID kind of scenario plays out really nicely, right? I have multiple connections because I'm at my house and he's at his house and she's at her house and she's at her house, and right. And so all of those connections are your failovers in the sense that as long as your business functions can be performed without the need for that office for those type of things, then yeah. But otherwise, yeah, for those necessary on-prem things that happen, manufacturing, those type of things, having some type of SD-WAN for failover or some type of capabilities for failover is critical.
Awesome. All right. Oh, wait, here we go. We got another question. So before we get into that, the pricing models, automation has been brought up a few times now. Are you using or experimenting with any help desk bots? And are you using and experiencing with taking tickets within Teams?
Not the latter, but the former I can speak to. We've been looking at Desk Director as well as the awesome Australian company. I can't remember their name. There's a couple competing products out there, but yeah. One of the nice things I like about a bot, and that is that you can put some automation into certain things, right? You could have printers reset and different visions like that. But the other thing about it that's really neat about having a bot for inputting tickets is you remove some of the email attack vectors, and you also have this unique phenomenon that comes in. If I came to Reese and we were talking about some negotiation, I'm gonna have a million things that I want to negotiate about that are outside of the normal spectrum, but still accomplish my goal. Right? And so what a computer bot to put in your ticket does to a me is I don't argue with the bot. Right? I follow the prompts. There's my options. Okay, fine. I don't like it. I'll put it in the optional. I'll type in my information. But it still captured the data that was necessary for putting the ticket in the right queue, for doing those type of things. So yeah, I think having a platform type bot, something that you're using, whether it's Desk Director or one of the other flavors, to do that is a really good idea, and makes you have some ability to bring all your platform to one place. You can have their portal be right there. You can link all the things that are necessary for navigating, TechVera, NetFX space, right? And so that's one of the great things about that type of a service. It's an experience platform.
Was the other solution you were talking about? Was the other solution you were talking about in Verisoft?
Yes, it was in Verisoft.
Yeah, Cole, we'll give Cole credit for that one. He popped that onto the into the chat.
Guys, that ticket automation piece is a emerging market with hundreds of millions of dollars flowing through it, right? I want you to think of automation in a couple of different phases, but for that piece right there, I would say like the second mouse is going to get the cheese. Like there's going to be some products that will hit the market soon. There's going to be some that will work, and that'll be a game changer for help desks of all size, and it will scale. They'll probably start doing entry level stuff and then scale up to level 2 and more machine learning based algorithmic type, service delivery. To that note, I think there's a huge opportunity for MSPs, businesses you're already working with, prospects you're going to be working with moving forward, to dig in a little bit deeper than you may have in the past into their business model and find a place where you can throw in some automation, find a place where you can automate, script, do something for them that could be a game changer, and as part of your agreement, license that IP you develop to them. Does that make sense? So we're actively looking at this, investing time in Power Automate and Flow. We've developed some internal processes already that are helping here. But that's, I'm really looking to dig in with the prospects that we have moving forward and make sure there's opportunities for that. If you haven't, looked into the power of that kind of stuff under the hood of Microsoft, you need to check it out.
Awesome. Another question that popped in when we were talking about the SD-WAN. Are any of you using Big Leaf for SD-WAN? If not, what SD-WAN service are you utilizing?
Yeah,
we're not using any.
We were using much more through Pax8. Big Leaf has always had a fairly decent technology delivery for that as an SD-WAN, in the sense that for an MSP, there's not the huge learning curve like you might have with Velo Cloud or with some of those other, more take over the router position SD-WAN. Big Leaf kind of falls in that category where it bolts outside your firewall that you're already used to and committed to and are working with your security stack and all those things, but still provides that generic routing encapsulation that allows you to have either of your tunnels be the path to home, allows you to use both of them for intelligent load balancing. Really solved a pretty major problem. Some of the biggest things that I had with Big Leaf, just because I live on the sleeve, and that is that their distribution model was very virgin for going towards market, and I think going through Pax8 should solve that pretty rapidly. So yeah, SD-WAN solutions that are out there range from the fairly complex down to fairly simple and bolt-on. Big Leaf would fall in the very beginning of the simple and bolt-on, but efficacy's in the high percentage range. So good product. Definitely love using that product.
I'm sorry, Matt, but here we go again, Dave, with the big words, efficacies. He always has a good big word. Always has a word.
Yeah, I look it up every day, actually, for this case. Yes.
You got to have that list next to your computer there, so you could. Oh, there. I can plug that word in.
I got it right there. I'm using that one.
I can read with the other eye while I'm looking at the camera.
That's good. That's good. You got to take your advantages where you have them.
Burton just posted that Help got acquired. So there's a link in the chat about Help being acquired. So we're going to move on to that question that Justin alluded to, because he's always ahead of the game. And let's talk about, what do your offerings look like? Are you guys doing all you can eat? Are you doing a la carte? Are you doing a mixture of both? And then why? I've done probably all of them over the years. I've definitely been a precious metals guy way back in the day, and everybody thought it was really cool, and that's changed a bit. But what are you guys doing? What's working, and why?
Well, I say for us,
step up. Go ahead, Dave.
I beat you. Number one. I say for us, we've always have managed service since the day we opened our doors. We went an all-you-can-eat shop. Back in 2001, before the term was even coined. That being said, one size does not fit all, and through the years we've had different things. We've done some time and materials and a la carte, as you want to call it. The big one now that we are spending a lot of time on, and is actually very, very profitable, is kind of a hybrid of all you can eat, which is the co-managed IT, where we do our tools, and that, I know that's next. I'm sorry, but they go together.
That's all right. It's perfect segue.
Co-managed IT has been it's a huge profit margin for us if you position it right, and you have your tools and your platform set up, and it's not just your ticketing system or anything like that. I mean, it's your documentation system, your password management system, your ticketing system. It's your security stack, your technology stack. It's all of it. That being said, they need your help anyway, so that's where you kind of add in some a la carte services where you're going to do some block agreements or time and materials and stuff like that. But my salespeople have to come twist my arm and it give me some huge ROI why we would take on another time and materials client, or just this one piece of our product. Prime example is we use in Central SolarWinds and Central as our RMM tool, and they have a great backup product that's built into it. And man, that salespeople come in, they want us to sell the backup all the time with nothing else. I'm like, no, because you get sucked into fixing the backup. So, it depends on what your client base is. Vegas is a unique market, in my humble opinion. We have very large companies that you have to be international support, and you have the most small businesses per capita anywhere else in the country at the same side. And most of the small businesses are like 1 to 5 users, and somewhere in there between is where you got to find your mix. So what is your vertical, and what is your horizontal or horizontal you're working on? And that would determine that.
So we do the all-you-can-eat offering. That's what we've led with when we started our managed service program. Doing it that way allowed us to be able to grow and add a lot of people, more than we needed to at some points. Getting to the point where I could sell that and consistently sell that was one of the biggest challenges we had in terms of managed services, kind of evolving the whole business to learn this new model how we were going to take care of people. And I can tell you that balancing act of time and material clients, and what we used to do before that was like blocks of labor, right? And you know, I remember in 2014, I had 50 block time clients, equated to like 100 grand in revenue for that year. We made that same amount of revenue off our first 5 flat rate clients. And I started, you know, and in 4 or 5 months, we had those first 5, obviously with way higher margin. It was recurring. And so we saw the power of it. And it takes some consistency to kind of build that program up. But once you get to the point where and you know, I remember being in a Chartech presentation and hearing Alex Rogers tell me, could you imagine having all your bills paid on the first, all your your entire nut covered, boom. It took me 3.5, 4 years to get there. We finally got there, but you know, now our revenue blend is 80%, you know, probably 75, 80% of that, the rest being projects and T&M. And I think it's important that once you figure out what your ideal prospect looks like and your ideal client vertical, that you go after those and try to stay as strict to some kind of borders as possible. I know these are trying times too, guys, because it's, you know, the economy is not in the best shape, and you know, we're looking at projects and things that maybe we wouldn't have batted an eye at in the past. I've been there before when you have to take on any kind of agreement you can. I can tell you it's much more fun when you can pick and choose and choose who you want to work with. And when you get to do that and you have that alignment and they appreciate you and they're like thankful too, and they're a high margin client, it's just such a win, right? So the all you can eat offerings really lend itself to that. Kind of backing up, Ken, to the SLA conversation and their standardization conversation. You know, if you have a topaz, bronze, diamond, platinum tiered program with different tiered SLAs, all those tickets go to the same help desk, right? And so something that really kind of shook my head up about having tiered programs is that your client experience should be uniform, regardless of what tier they are, right? So that's a testament to having kind of a unified all-you-can-eat package and standardized SLA across your service delivery. But in doing that, you need to be looking at getting, you know, between 200, 250 per user per month if you're going to be doing a true, fully managed, all-you-can-eat type of managed service offering. I mean, that's what a best-in-class agreement would price around.
Yeah, and I think all the things you talked about kind of go hand in hand, right? Once you get to that point, you're getting customers that value you, they're thankful for you, like all those things kind of tie together. And I know when you're starting out and you're pushing through this as an MSP, that's not always the case, right? Those guys that push your limits and they come at you about everything. Guys, there is light at the end of the tunnel. You can get to the point where you can start to wean those people off. And a little bit later in this conversation, or maybe in one of the educational, we'll talk about this a bit, but it's very important to understand that you have to find a way to get to the point where your customers see the value in what you're doing. Did anybody have anything else to add to that discussion?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head though, Ken, as far as you have to be doing the value, right? There was a term that I learned when I first got my stockbroker's license at 19. It was called fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a lot of MSP start out that way, and I was one of them, right? We were a break fix company and 7 guys, and you know, and then we started converting to managed services and following the economics and all those things, and you know, really trying to make that happen. But it's only after you mature and get process, and sometimes it means attaining a certain level of scale, to be able to start delivering those things, and not only do the things to get the value, to reduce the downtime, and to create the things that are necessary for the client, and now ever more on the security landscape and compliance landscape and privacy landscape that we're dealing with as MSPs. But additionally, having the ability to show them that you're giving them the value, right? To make sure they understand all of the things that an IT department would be responsible for if being thusly outsourced, right? That we're doing this, we're tracking the devices, we're managing the patch levels, we're actually checking the backups, we're doing the backups. Matter of fact, the reason Reese comes to a price that he comes to is because he's baking in so many of those things that as MSPs, we have to be the doctor, right? And I say this all the time that, you know, I make the joke about my blood pressure and me being fat. My doctor doesn't choose which one to tell me about. He says, hey, deal with both of these things. And you Reese and all the things at the table are being the doctor to our clients, and we're saying, listen, we're baking in backup because you don't have a choice. We're putting in a firewall because you don't have a choice. Because if their IT department internally was given the appropriate budget to survive the apocalypse that's coming from a security perspective, they'd be doing these things. And I think part of an MSP's responsibility is not only doing those things, which that's the primary, right, guys? Let's be 100% honestly. But the secondary piece is that you have a good marketing engagement team. You're planning on how you're marketing that to your customers. How are you reporting it? Somebody said, like Reese, he pulls up their board and shows them their SLAs. How powerful is that if that's a board on their screen in their office? I think our Dallas office, I think that's one of the things they do is every client gets a HUD. And they have their HUD in their office, and we provide it on BrightGauge, right? In fact, we're beating their servers to death right now. But those type of things don't forget to tell your client what you're doing for them. Don't forget to share that like an internal department would, and say those things and ask for a seat at the table. You should have one.
Absolutely.
Yeah, to get that level of agreement too, Matt, take it to the next level. When you go to meet with a prospect, you need to be looking at their ISP, right? You need to be looking at their phone system. I can't tell you how many agreements I've won exclusively on bringing these types of solutions in there. And so there's all sorts of master agents, and I know Pax8 has the ability to get you connected with people that you can literally go to a client or a prospect that you've just met, figure out what their internet engagement looks like. When you go to pitch them, you could be bringing them a better internet connection, a new cloud hosted, phone system, all this kind of stuff that think about in light of COVID and all that bullshit, how like their jaws would hit the floor. Name your price. Like you need to be taking a holistic approach to, I should put my TED Talk background on here, Ken, to this level of engagement. And then you can get $200 or $300 a user all day.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. And it kind of goes right into, as David started off talking about, the co-managed side of this, right? Well, listen, we've all done co-managed for years. It just never had a cool name like co-managed, right? And now co-managed is the name. It's catching on. You got guys like Bob Coppage who adds great color to what it is all about. I strongly suggest anybody who wants to really dive into co-managed to go look up Bob Coppage's book, because it's really good. It does deep dive. And it gives you a better explanation. Yeah, right. But co-managed, I think he has 2 for co-managed, right?
Okay.
God, yeah. So make sure you look at those books. They're not expensive. They're good resources. But co-managed is basically something we've all done. We try to be an extension of larger companies, IT firms. And listen, those guys don't have access to the tools that we do as an MSP. So why not lend those tools out to them? It's less work for us. As Ian Richardson coined the phrase, it's mailbox money. We can loan the tools to them and at its basic level and just let them use our tools, let them use our ticketing system. And then if they want to escalate, sure, we'll be more than happy to take that work on. Even in some cases, be their help desk. Some people want to do that, some people don't. But there's different levels of co-managed. So, for you guys, what are you guys doing? What levels of co-managed are you guys using? David, I know you alluded to it and started to talk about it. What are the levels of co-managed that you're using now? What's been the most successful?
Well, I can tell you the most successful has been, we have 2 co-managed agreements with some casinos here. So they have 20, 30 people on their staff, but they're using our tools, our monitoring, all that stuff. And our joke with their director of IT is, yeah, we do all the stuff you don't like to do. So, I mean, we take 900, well, not right now because there's nobody in the casinos, but when they're operating, we take about 900 calls a month from one casino specifically just on password resets and that kind of stuff. Now, we had to do some things like develop an application for identity matching and stuff like that, and get uploads from their data. That's been very profitable for us, but we've also had several customers, you run into customers who are a little bit more mature. They might have 80, 100 people, or maybe they even have 50 people. To me, it's always been around the 100 to 150 mark where you start needing an IT person. Matt's giving me smiles right now because I want to do screen grab, but I can't do it while I'm talking, man. Sorry, So you usually around 80 or 100 people. They start considering bringing their own in-house IT person. Well, when that happens, I start having different conversations with the customers. So it's like, hey, is he working 40 hours a week on your IT, or is he playing video games? Like, have you seen this video here that talks about the internet's down? Let me show you what the guy's doing while he's talking on the phone. What is your IT person doing? How are you managing that person? Do you know how to manage that person? Well, what if we gave you tools that you can see what he's doing all day, have a knowledge base built in, have some metrics that you can put on him, just like you do every other employee in your organization, so that you can make sure that you're having things done proactively and taken care of and have records of it. And by the way, if something happens and he goes on vacation, you got someone who can back you up because it's all being documented and taken care of, and that could be us. For a savvy business owner or a business organization that's a little more mature in what their thought processes are, which are the customers that we want, you don't want the ones that are like, oh, I can't afford $50 an hour. That's, I got my son over here could do it for 30. You know, if you look for that mature business, then that's a no-brainer for them. You know, I can pay you a couple $1,000s a month, do patch management, do antivirus, do ticketing, do documentation management, do all those kinds, and provide metrics on my guys so you can help me manage them. You get to that C-level exec, and that's a no-brainer conversation. And by the way, you get to charge a bunch for your intellectual property for putting all your tools together as a markup on the product. You make more. Frankly, you make more profit on those products than you ever can reselling them in any other shape or form. And then you also get some labor on top of it. So for us, love co-managed IT agreements.
And you got to think about it. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Matt.
What did he do? The thing? Anyway, he's got David number one here. So don't forget, guys, that extra profit from selling tools, from doing a co-managed model, from doing those things, comes with additional risk. Right, you are extending the risk of compromise taking out your business. So make sure that as you're doing those things that you are following the cybersecurity framework, that you are following the NIST standards and guidelines. Like, we all should come together and make a commitment to work towards CSF 10, the 10 items that have been selected for us as MSPs to try to follow out of the overall encompassing 800, 171 sections in CMMC. But the point being, if you hand that off to a technician in a location, consider how you're going to deliver those credentials and identity, right? Consider how you silo their access down and what access capabilities you have, and just understand you're taking more risk because you're now introducing the potential start of their demise into their environment as a nominal monthly cost, right, for tools. So just that would be my one word of caution on the security part of my title, I suppose.
So guys, this is something that my MSP has not delved into as much as I would like. It's something that we're really pushing forward as we as we mature as an MSP, taking on bigger clients and co-manage engagements, one-offs for bigger organizations, whether it's just their email and email security, or doing the ticketing system or metrics. These are all different opportunities that if you can get to the right audience, I think you can veil a lot of hate with this, right? And the risk obviously is going to be greater taking on these bigger opportunities, but I say fortune favors the bold, guys. Like the Axient guy said, I think, and I literally heard this morning from a gentleman that was an intern at IT intern at a local trucking plant, Peterbilt Motors here in town, that just laid off a bunch of IT people, right? And so companies are going to be cutting their HR, marketing, and IT as they try to kind of tighten up. There's opportunities hidden in that for us to come in and help these companies kind of stabilize, and on the rebound, help them expand and scale. And I was going to ask David, I'm sure once you get that, the few co-managed agreements we have, they have a staffed person, we hold them accountable through our metrics and ticketing system, like David has said there. The level of stickiness you get when you've got an entire organization trained on how to go to your team and use your tool stack, there's something to be said there, right, David?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, once all of their end users know how to use your ticketing system, it's just like that you were their entire managed IT provider on their own, and you didn't have a central contact bringing in your tickets. The one thing that makes it more difficult, the risk, I totally agree with Matt. It depends on how you deploy it, right? I mean, you got to make sure that you secure their access to the right thing so they can only use it for monitoring and that kind of stuff without giving them root access to your own organization in some way, shape, or form. But the other thing that makes co-manage a little harder is that you now have to have 2 points of contact, right? You have to maintain the relationship with the C-level. so that you could have those high-level conversations. But because there's someone who's in charge of IT there, the natural thing is for you to only have contact with that IT person, which you are now basically saying is doing a great job or throwing under the bus because they're not doing well for the customer, right? So remember, our contract, at least for us anyway, and I'm sure it is for all of you, but our contract is with the company. Regardless of who the CEO is, regardless of who the IT person is, that's who our contract is. So as tough as the decision may be, or the conversation may be, you have to maintain that with the CEO, and you have to maintain that. So you got to put that up front in the sales process. Like, look, if you do this, we have to meet without your IT person at least once a quarter, once a month, whatever that time frame is, so that we can talk about the business aspects of IT, right? And that's where you start doing some of your VCIO services, or at least providing that extra value that comes with it, right? And yes, you still need to have your business reviews on a monthly, quarterly, whatever basis with that IT person, because you need to help them drive the technology piece of it. If you don't have that multi-level contact and maintain that, then it turns horrible, because all it takes is pissing off the IT guy once because he got in trouble and you're out of the company, right? So there is some risk, but it's also could be very profitable if it's managed properly. And we've been lucky enough to have customers, and this time I want to bring up last time, you find those customers that can be very noisy and they can be painful to deal with. So you have an opportunity or not. Those customers that we've had, a majority of them, not all of them, they've made us a better company because they've pushed us to be better in order to meet that. Now, there are people who have unreasonable requests and that are unreasonable people. Like, they'll always give a 5 on your 1 out of 10 customer satisfaction survey because that's as good as they give, right? But the majority of them, they push you to be better. So you can take those noisy clients and see those 1 complaint for every 8 that don't or more, and you can use it to make you a better organization, to refine your processes, and even better yet, partner with those customers to find out what's going to make them happier so that you can be better. Partner with them. Tell them your woes. They got the same ones you do. So co-managed IT's allowed that. That's where that conversation with that second contact with the CEO is, that you can really have and make a difference in their organization. Matt, you were talking about EOS or Traction or StratOps, and there's all these different models. Almost every one of our customers we've introduced EOS to in some way, shape, or form. Not all of them taking it, but the ones that have, even if I don't talk to them for months because they're too busy, they call me up and say thank you every now and then.
Yeah.
Right. So what other value can you bring to them besides just IT? Yeah.
It's awesome. That's really great. So we have a question from the audience. Cody would like to know, what are some inspirational resources that you guys use? Reese, you're an inspiration guy.
Yeah,
Come
man,
on.
that's a good one.
That is.
So guys, you just
Simon Sinek.
Yes, Simon Sinek's a huge one, but I want y'all to take a moment to appreciate the fact that you're able to build a business that you can essentially work from home in an industry that is hot and will be, regardless of economic ups or downs. There's ways that the services and the problems we solve are valuable for business and will only be ever increasingly, more valuable to them. So, having this kind of COVID situation go on, seeing my team rally, seeing my client base go remote, seeing us kind of now on the upward path of this, to looking to, I did a discovery today, Ken, before this meeting, getting back to some semblance of normal and having a company that can weather that and scale. That's stuff that inspires me. My team inspires me. The biggest inspiration I get is the 3 little ones that I have at home and my wife, which is why the work from home wasn't an ideal thing for me. But yeah, my family, seeing guys in the channel, business mentors that have done a lot, seeing these guys along their paths, they're further along their journeys. I mentioned Alex. He was one of those guys that I've seen that has been a business mentor to me over the years. So that's, the inspiration I get is being able to come in and do something I love and be able to solve problems. And as we go further down this road, to learn more about kind of consultative business stuff, the automation things I'm talking about, the AI and machine learning stuff, dude, we're building Skynet. It's really, really cool. So.
Anybody else inspirational?
Yeah, so, we kind of got into this game, the managed services game, a little bit late, right? So beginning of 2015 is when we sold our first agreement. And I remember going to different events, whether that was, our PSA vendor or a more generic industry event, or, once Pax8 started throwing events. But early on, you would draw inspiration from, or I would draw inspiration from just the conversations that I was having with more established and mature MSPs, right? Because I was mind blown about what they were doing, how they were doing it, the tools they were using, right? And I would come back to Reese, or Reese would come back to me, oh, we gotta try this, gotta try that, whatever, and so we were just excited, inspired, and ready to keep moving. Now that we've matured, right, we still have growing to do, but we've matured a lot from those days back in 2015. And now I draw an inspiration from doing events like this and helping those guys that I was 2 or 3 years ago, right, that are wide-eyed and can't believe what's going on. So I have those conversations I'm now the person on the other end of the conversation I was having 3 years ago, right? And I think I always find that as being really, really cool. And just drawing on others in this industry, the thought leaders in this industry to pull inspiration from is something that I like to do.
Yeah, I agree. I really feel like this community, you guys, obviously it's no surprise that you guys are panel, right? I mean, we directly rely on you folks for a lot of things, and inspiration is definitely one of them. And I feel like the same. I get inspiration from my family. I get inspiration from the people I work with, you guys. I do like Simon Sinek. I know Cody said that he's a little mixed on Simon, but I do like a lot of what he says. I did like, his, he shared his presentation with his team when this was all hitting and talked about, we've had disruption many times. Maybe it wasn't a pandemic, but we've had disruption. It's all about agility and how agile we are. And every one of you discussed being agile in all these conversations. So, I think right now always, but right now more than ever, finding inspiration in your peers is important. And guess what? If you're not finding inspiration from certain circles, you're in the wrong circles. I think that's one thing to know about. Get away from, certain circles. If it's all, Debbie Downer and it's the end of the world, you should be surrounding yourself with people who have positive thoughts about what's going on. Yes, this is a crazy time, but what we're doing is amazing. We're pulling together. We're going to be able to get through this. We're going to change the way we do things, be agile. You get a lot of this from peer groups too. You guys all mentioned your groups in one way or another, through peer groups. Get involved with what's going on in your communities, jump in and listen and talk. And, I just think it's a lot of really, there's a lot of really cool things you can do. Pax8 also has some peer groups. You guys can reach out to Chris Kaiser about that and get involved with a peer group. So there's so much going on, and inspiration comes from a lot of different places. It doesn't always have to come from the Simon Sineks of the world. It can come from someone you would least expect. These guys
I never thought Matt would inspire me, but
I knew it was coming. Here it comes.
I joke around about it. Matt has been one of the people that I've gotten to know through this over the last couple of months a little bit and spent some time with on these panels and that kind of stuff. And same with Reese and Justin. They're friendly faces. Hearing them and talking to them, everyone's going to have a down day every now and then, or like, crap, things did not go well today. Having a number to dial out to, or a person to talk to, or a face to think of makes a difference. If it's, it's not your family, it's got to be friends, right?
Agreed, 100%.
The relationship piece here, guys, I cannot stress this enough, because a huge part of my company's success, both with our clients and vendors, has been on building relationships. It's been myself and Justin literally going to vendors, letting them do their presentation and saying, well, what else can we do to push this forward? What else can you give me? What else can we do? What other kind of marketing initiatives are you going to show me to help sell this product? I've yet to come to someone in the channel, regardless of their success or tiering, that I asked for help directly and specifically, and they did not give it back. So those relationships are huge, guys. The peer group that Ken mentioned, I know me and Justin, I think all of us are involved in that in some form or fashion. And so it's like Justin said, it is really, it is it is very fun from this side being able, if I can help anyone that is on this session right now or anyone in the channel fast track and go through some of these things that I had challenges with. Guys, it's life changing. I literally had a $2 million $2 million business 2 years ago. It made no money. The same $2 million business took 20 points at the bottom line a year later, like just with some changes we made. It's a lot. So I wouldn't have known what to do had it not been for me asking, leaning into the industry, leaning into my peer group, getting a little beat up a little bit from that peer group, but coming out better and stronger on the other side. I just cannot urge that enough.
Yeah, 100%. So guys, make sure that you reach out to these folks. They're all very involved. What we're talking about here is not some show. This is why we do these events. These guys are all very helpful. They'll dive in and listen. If they don't know the answer, I guarantee you they'll find someone who does. So, you know, make sure you're utilizing, these are your peers. These are all Pax8 people. They're all partners at different levels of Pax8, and they're all willing to help. So make sure you're reaching out to these folks. We got about 8 minutes left, and I'd like to touch on the piece that I promised earlier, the sales and marketing piece, because I think it's very important. And if we go a few minutes over, it's fine. It's only going to cut into a little bit of a break time. But the question is, you know, what sales and marketing methods have led to success? That's our normal question, but I think we have to change that and augment it and say, what sales and marketing success have you had now with what we're dealing with now? Reese, I know you have a very strong opinion on this. I know Matt has some opinions on this. I'm sure all of you guys do. So I'll let you guys duke it out. I'll try to separate David Rounds and Matt Lee because I know they're going to go at each other.
Nah.
All right, guys. So that's the question. Sales and marketing. What are you doing that's successful right now for sales and marketing?
All right, never mind. I take it back. So well, you waited too long. The biggest thing that I would say had to shift in the beginning as we go through COVID through now, you know, this last 2 months, was in the very beginning, everyone was starved for knowledge. Everybody was in transitional states. And so, you know, Reese was doing it like crazy. You know, we did a few as well, and Iconic, and just getting educational seminars, getting out those things that are just not selling at all. They are absolutely talking about this giant spectrum of data right now that's in front of us of how do I as a company navigate these waters and have my people work from home. And we talked about points like using Teams for collaboration. How do you structure data? You know, what do you have to do about paid time off? What do you have to do for these things in the beginning? But now as it's transitioning, I think those same lessons and same discussions, now as you start having your marketing campaigns talking about working from home, as you start having, you know, what is the answer for the future marketing campaigns coming out of, you know, what are the things I should be doing so that I'm prepared for this, you know, next time or if it continues. And I think that, you know, the beginning, there was a very famous person that inspires me a lot, said, now's not the time for selling, right? In a fairly somber conversation, a guy named Ken something, I don't know, Kate Patterson or something, but, you know, and I think he was right at the time. I think now, though, we're at the point where the fruits of those labors are coming in and we're starting to see very large projects. I think we signed a, you know, $50,000 or $60,000 labor project for moving a giant client to Office or M365, you know, and a lot of people have been picking up clients. You know, I've said this for a while that there's a huge greenfield advantage out there, right? I think Barracuda had the number at 60%. CompTIA just recently had a number at 37%. But essentially, that there's a huge percentage of small to mid-sized businesses that have never consumed services from an MSP, whether that be co-managed or otherwise. And of those, I think it was 44%, 37% of them were ready to buy that from an MSP, right? And that was as a study right towards the end of before the first quarter, but right before COVID. I think right now you'd find that's even driven even farther as people that were an internal person don't respond. So really, I would market very heavily towards, you know, the work from home and how things have changed and what modern IT, modern office works. Makes sense. Pax8 has a lot of really great product and brand around that, right? Because it's mainly centered around platform as a service, Microsoft products. If you ever want to go through that with me, there's no secret sauce to it. I'll gladly share my vision with any one of you MSPs that are on this call about where I think we're heading and what that means to an MSP and how the pivot and change means to our service delivery models as people consume that. But to the initial question, it is absolutely continued seminars and webinars, training events to teach people how to use their tools. Amy Babinachak, I always throw her name in here as well with Bob, but Amy, her marketing that she did was she would set up these training seminars with Microsoft and say, listen, at a Microsoft Tech Center, we're going to teach you about Teams. And she'd invite half prospects and half clients. And they'd show up and they'd teach them how to use stuff, and they'd have real cases from stuff they'd done, like Reese is saying, in the Power Automate and those type of things that you can automate their world, flow as it used to be called. But you could set up those things to make your client have less W-2 load and show that vision. But right now, everybody has a shared pain. Every single human on this earth has one shared experience, right? We all talk about where we were when JFK was killed, or we all talk about where we were with 9/11. This is going to be one of those moments, a little tongue in cheek because we were at home, but the point being is that everyone will remember this. And when you're selling towards it, selling is all about conveying emotion and having that emotion take an action that's better for the client, right? I mean, if you're selling the right stuff, hopefully. And so I think we have a shared emotion now, and I think we can talk towards that. It's something that's very real. It's very nascent. It's very poignant in people's minds right now. And so market and focus on those things has been a huge return for us towards the what's next, right, kind of concept.
Awesome. Go ahead, Reese.
So there's a metric, Ken, that I always hear Nick Hetty throw around. It's a Microsoft number about the attainable business market for SMB. In the SMB space, the attainable business market that has not been captured, somewhere around 91%, something like that, right? Only 8% of it's been captured, basically. There's a lot of low-hanging fruit out there, guys. And the things that we're doing that are working here all center around that notion of education, right? I am a very, by nature or by adaptation, very pushy when it comes to our sales stance. And that's something I've had to kind of taper back in light of what's going on here. And so I made a conscious decision in March that we were going to put out a ton of education and content, and we were going to drive attendance to those events. We were going to load the top of our funnel, right? So all I want is whether it's a business owner, an employee, or someone in between, they're going to get catered messaging based on their title in LinkedIn to them, right? So the end user may get some messaging about how teams made their job easier. Maybe it's a KPI thing for the manager. Maybe it's that W-2 conversation for a business owner. But that's how granular you can get with your advertising dollars on LinkedIn because of job titles. The privacy things on Facebook, not so much anymore. But suffice to say, the ways that we did stuff in the past, and when I was out on site doing a discovery, I can't tell you how many times I just knocked next door, let them know we were there. I didn't see that no soliciting sign. Just you can't brute force that shit anymore in light of COVID. So we're having to learn new ways. And yeah, man, that's changed it up for us. So the education piece has been very fruitful in the sense, like Matt said, you do these sessions. If you can, anyone that's on this call can put together 15 to 20 minutes of meaningful content, use cases that you've seen for Office 365, for Teams, for any kind of cloud solution you have. What does that mean to a business owner? Like, get 20 minutes of talking points, do a Q&A, get a champion of yours to talk for 5 minutes at the end. I will tell you, people like to hear your clients talk about you and praise you way more than they do yourself. Yeah. So provide education. Maybe get a testimonial at the end, do a Q&A. If you do polls and questions, there's a lot of ways you can use that data to kind of further drive your marketing efforts, finding out if people want to interact with you or engage with you through the polls. Something we've been doing that's been very effective. But to Matt's point, in April, I did 10 webinars on various topics. I did some, I did Teams training, and then I did a Teams training just for a local bar, a Denton County bar, right? Like a lawyers association. So if you can reach out to organizations, you can, now I didn't even mean it as a joke, but whether it's a Rotary Club, Kiwanis, all these groups are hurting for speakers, right? You guys are technology, experts. You could literally go to an organization, your local chamber, and say, hey, would you like me to facilitate an event for you? We can use my GoToMeeting licensing. I can set up a landing page for you. I can even be a speaker on best practices for SMB if you want. They'll jump all over that, but get exposure. There's never been an easier time to get your content and video out there. And I will say, because I did a lot of video and stuff before, I had a good platform to really lean into as this has happened. And the one thing I want to tell you is it does not have to be perfect. I could barely get my mic to work, right? To start this. I get content out there and it works. And I'll tell you this, it's funny that you say that, Ken, because I'll show you, everybody's doing video now, right? So I've spent my last 2 weekends, figuring out, I've got a mixer right here. We got some really cool shit I'm about to do. My video is going to stand out. I'm going to get noticed. Got to get noticed, guys. It's very important.
Thanks, Reese.
And mine's a little bit different than Reese and Matt's. While I agree with everything they said in messages, we've gone into let's revamp our SEO. Let's make sure that our SEO is up to snuff. Let's make sure our website's a little fresh. Let's turn on the Google AdWords a little bit. I can't tell you over the period of the last 2 months how many MSPs I've said, oh, I've cut all my marketing expense out. Well, guess what? If everyone's cut all their marketing expense out and you're turning yours up a little bit, I can tell you by doing those things. We were starting it in end of February, beginning of March is when we started doing those things. Our website traffic's up 1,000%. Our Google clicks are up. Our leads coming in are up. All of that's changed than what it was pre-COVID. All because we changed our marketing. So you have to identify the message, and the message is spot on what Reese and Matt are talking about, and those are definitely some optimal ways. It's not a time to hard sell. It is a time to prove your value. It is a time to still sell. There's never a time, even your engineers, you should see the look on my engineer's face when I tell them we're not a technology company. And they look at me like, what? I said, no, we are a user experience customer service organization. I said, everyone's got a brother who can do it. So that message has to get out there. And whether it's your engineers, SEO, websites, we're also we signed up, we have this thing in Las Vegas, a company does a video co-op where we're going to start producing videos for websites and instant message or social media. You know, there's all sorts of things to do out there. Start marketing. Now's not the time to stop. Now's the time to start, and then identify your message.
David, can I ask you a question on that?
Sure.
Has the journey for those inbound leads, once they come to you now, does that journey change for them now during COVID, post-COVID? The leads that are coming in, do they have different kind of stories?
Yeah, it has changed a little bit because, you know, we've always required a network assessment on site. So network assessments look a little different right now, you know. And like I said, we didn't start this till end of February, and it takes, you know, everyone knows SEO, it's 30, 60, 90 days, right? So we're already seeing 1,000% increase and a pretty good increase on leads as well, but they're not all through the funnel yet because we were refilling our funnel, right? So, but the assessments are a little different now. We've had some clients in the middle of wanting to secure services. They literally had to shut their doors and lay off 100% of their employees. So that deal's dead, you know. And we're just now starting to get some conversations coming in. As you know, we got to go back to work and going back to the office, and moving our staff off the office was horrible. We just finished that. Now we're going back. Can you guys do it better? So it's like, I'm going to say, you know, Matt's talking about there's this huge greenfield out there. I'm saying there's this huge dissatisfaction out there right now.
Oh yeah.
For all the MSPs that failed. So if you have all these MSPs who failed miserably getting their customers prepared up front or transitioned off, and they're cutting their marketing down, then that means Google AdWords is going to go down for our industry, because right now it's expensive. It could be $10, $15, $20 a click sometimes, right? So depending on what you're marketing. So put some money into smart marketing, identify your message, and something you brought way back up in the very beginning, Reese. What does your ideal customer look like? You know, this goes back to the guys who are on EOS and Traction. What is your target market? What is your niche? What are your uniques? You know, put your message together. Story brand script, or My Story Brand, is a good place to help looking for some of your message. It's something we use, way of getting your message across. So find that core thing you're going to talk about, educate, soft sell, and spend some money. You know, now's the time, especially if you got the PPP loan. You really don't have an excuse not to spend a little money on marketing. Just make sure you're spending your PP money and tracking it properly so you get it forgiven at the end.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what a great way to close out, David. Thank you. That was well put together. Guys, I just got to say thank you. And typically, these guys will travel anywhere I ask them to come do these panels, and they were definitely ready to come to Dallas and New Orleans. I know that. So I really want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart, and Pax8 would love to thank you guys for, you know, doing all you do for us, for the community, and these guys. You know, guys, reach out to these folks. They're pretty smart people, and they're willing to help. So, you know, thanks a lot, guys. I really appreciate your time.